All right, today's date on the opener is actually the real date, so you guys don't have to scratch it and restart. This first equation is solving equations with square roots. So you guys already told me this when we went through the first initial review. So in your notes, you should flip to your note sheet that says solving equations with square roots. After I circle my variable, and after I draw my line of equality, there's one more thing I need to do. What's the next step I need to do when I'm solving an equation with a square root? No. Look at step 1. What's the last thing I need to do for step 1? Box the square root. So what am I boxing here? Yeah, that's the only thing that's being the square root right now. Now, the reason why we box the square root is because we want to get that square root by itself. So is there anything on the outside of the box here? On the same side of the line of equality? Yeah, no. So that means we can go ahead and move on to step 2. What am I going to do for step 2? Yeah, square both sides. So square and square root cancel. I bring down my variable a. And then what's 7 squared? 49. So that's your answer. Okay? Okay, let's take a look at the next one. So you guys told me that this next equation, if you want full points, make sure you're showing all your work. So right now, that's a 1 out of 2 on your opener. So this one's going to be solving an equation with a square. So Jalen, after I circle my variable, after I draw my line of equality, I'm going to look at my notes, solving equations with squares, and I'm going to do what step 1 says. What's step 1 tell me to do? Box what? Okay, so what's being squared here? What else? Yeah, everything in that parentheses. So I'm going to box everything in the parentheses. Now, the reason why I box that square is because I need to get that square by itself. Jalen, what's not part of the box? What did I not box in there? What's not in that box? That 3. So we're going to have to get rid of that 3. How do I get rid of that 3? I just didn't hear you. Not -3. Is that 3 touching the parentheses?
Oh, times 3.
So what's the opposite of times? Divide. There you go.
That's what I said.
Well, I told you I didn't. He said -3, didn't he?
I said I couldn't hear that.
Danielle? She's like, don't put me in between this. Okay. So what do I bring down on my left side, Jalen?
5b, yeah, minus 6.
And I'm going to make sure I have that in parentheses and square it. Then on my right side, what's 48 divided by 3?
16.
Okay. Now, is my square by itself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw parentheses,
So what do you do now? You look at step 2. What's step 2 say to do? Is there an opener on your desk?
No. That's square root. Square both sides.
Not square both sides, but look at your notes again. Dude, you gotta get...
Take
Take
the
the-
square. So you got to put the square on the 16.
No, not square. Finish reading it. Put the
The square root. Oh.
square root. Put the square root on both sides. So you already have the square there. So the square and square root cancel. So I'm going to go ahead and bring down the 5b minus 6. And then what's the square root of 16?
4.
It would be 4. And then my last step is going to be, what's my last step every single time? What is it?
So usual.
Yeah, solve as usual. So how do I solve as usual here? Anybody know?
Get rid of that 6.
How do I do that?
Put
Okay.
Oh, I didn't know you was.
No, it's not going through.
Oh, sorry. I'm like, come on, guys. You're making me a little worried. And then to get the b by itself,
You got to divide by 5.
and that's going to equal
Going too much, bro.
1.
what?
No. Don't equal. Wait. Hold on. What am I doing? Equal 2.
2. Did you take 5 divided by 5?
No.
Okay, 2.
I did.
Good.
Yeah. I did 5 by 5.
Okay, that's all right. It's Monday. We're gonna get our brains working, warmed up maybe. It is only like 20 degrees out, so it might take us a while to get warmed up.
It's cold.
Oh, it's awful.
Man, just like my car.
I need to move down south. All right, flip it over.
It's even colder than
The back side. These are probably my favorite types of equations. The back side, the long ones. I love long equations. All right. So the first equation that we're going to look at is solving an equation with a what? Square root. So when I go to solve an equation with a square root, what do I do after I circle my variable and I draw my line of equality? Okay, so what's the square root? So I'm going to box all that. Now I box all of that because I have to get that by itself. So I'm going to have to use PEMDAS backwards to get the box or the square root by itself. So if I'm using PEMDAS backwards, what do I get rid of first, Kaylon?
Minus 7.
Minus 7.
Plus 7.
Good. He had his hand up.
Yeah.
Okay, on the left side, Kaylon,
It's gonna be 7.
14 plus 7.
Oh, that's gonna be 21.
There you go. And then what do I bring down on my right side?
You'll bring down everything else that's left.
That's a good way of saying it. Okay. Next step. What do I have to do next?
We're at 3.
Get rid of the 3. How do I get rid of the 3?
Oh, even up. Do divide by 3.
Divided by 3.
I guess. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Divided by 21. I got it though. 0. Oh, that's because I did it wrong.
You did it backwards, didn't you?
And then you get 7.
Okay, so 7 equals what?
Square.
Yeah, square. C plus 9.
4C plus 9.
But you
Okay.
already said 4.
So once I got the square root, I brought it down. Is my square root by itself?
Yeah.
Yes. So now what?
You have to get your square root by itself.
How so?
You're better than 9. Oh, you got square root
By
7.
squaring it. Okay. What's 7 squared going to be?
Won't that be 49?
It would be 49. And then what do I bring down on my right side?
4C
Bring out
plus 9.
4C.
And then my final step.
Take away from the.
Take away from the 9 because I'm solving as usual.
That's not your final step.
According to my notes.
40.
Yes, 40. Whew. That was intense.
Hold on, but you gotta get 4C by itself still.
But you had to get rid of 9 first.
So therefore,
My final step, I meant like following my directions on my notes. That's my final directive that my notes are giving me. Okay, and you're right though, but that's not our final step because we still have to get the C by itself by getting rid of the 4. And how do I do that, Kaylon?
divide
By
4.
which equals 10. Nice.
Yes.
Wait, huh? Why they said you ain't say 10? I know.
All right, and we're down to 2.
Yeah. So this could be a
You need to show some steps in there.
Who, that's what I'm trying to do, but I'm trying to get the answers.
It's just like when somebody not here is more quiet.
Oh, that guy's in the office.
Is
Oh.
that where he is?
Yeah.
He's in there?
Should say it was 2 situations.
Okay, well, I'm recording right now, so we'll talk about it in a minute. All right, let's take a look at the next one. So this, you guys told me, was solving equations with multiple variables, part 1. You know it's part 1 because you don't have variables on both sides of the equation. You don't have variables on both sides of the equal sign. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to circle my multiple variables. I don't have to worry about putting a box around anything because it's not a square or a square root. So I'm going to flip in my notes to solving equations, multiple variables, part 1. So note sheet number 4. After I circle my variables and draw my line of equality, the first step says I need to simplify each side of the equation. How do I simplify each side of the equation? I first need to determine if I can what? Look at your notes. Say it again. Distribute. Can I distribute here? Yeah, how many times?
2.
Yeah. So Alex, go ahead and distribute for me.
That's 6.
Okay, what do you get?
6. Right.
6 what? What's your variable?
B.
D.
Plus,
Okay.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
6. 7.
You're multiplying, remember?
Yeah, 6.
Okay, and then you're going to distribute what?
-2.
Okay, times.
2.
And then -2 times -3. What do you get when you multiply those two together? Wait, what's -2 times 2?
2.
2 times 2.
1.
2 times 2.
All the time.
Yes, times.
4. -4.
-4, and what's your variable?
B.
D. And then you're going to take -2 times -3 and get 2 negatives equal a?
Probably, okay.
There we go.
6. Yeah.
Which equals what I bring down on my right side.
18.
Alex is like, leave me alone. I'm
No,
done.
I just didn't see that.
All right, after I distribute, my next step is to,
Combine.
okay, what are my like terms up here?
6 equal D6 plus 6.
What kind of 4 is that though? So 6D minus 4D. And what's my other like terms?
6.
Positive 6 and,
5.
okay? So I'm always going to start combining like terms using my variables first. So what's 6D minus 4D?
Wanna be negative 34?
No, what's 6 minus 4?
Oh, I put
Said-
40
said
in my
40.
calculator. Right, you showed me
4D. 6 minus 4, 6D minus 4D. I'm like, how did you get, like, woo, okay. 6D minus 4D. 2 what? D.
Oh,
All right. Now I need to combine my next like terms. Positive 6 plus 6, which equals positive 12, which then equals 18. So after I simplify each side of my equation by distributing and combining like terms, I go to my final step. What's my final step? Solve as usual. How do I solve as usual here?
-12.
Okay. $18 minus 12.
4. No, 6.
Guys, struggle bus this morning. And how do I get D by itself? Divided by 2.
cold outside.
Man, it was cold.
6 divided by 2. What'd you guys say it was?
3.
3. It would be 3. All right. Make sure you have it down.
We done.
We have one more.
Come on.
It's going to go with the last note set.
Man, this one looks long. Pause. Chill.
Robin is trying to see if you can run down on 7 ISD real fast.
Breakfast is there.
Do you want to pop by until you're on your way?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, last one. Ooh, this is my favorite.
That's what I'm saying.
They're all my favorite. All right, here we go. Variable, variable,
Chill.
variable. Draw my line. So I'm looking at my last note sheet, solving equations, multiple variables, part 2. And I know the first step is going to tell me simplify each side of the equation. I'm going to simplify each side of the equation just like I did for part 1 by starting with distributing. So what am I going to distribute here?
What would happen if I combined the 2 plus?
You can't do that first because you're not using the order of operations because you're not solving it correctly. Even if you think of it like that, Kaylon. So like let's say you want to do the 2 plus 3 first. You still have to solve it using order of operations, and that wouldn't be the order that we would do it. So it was a really good question, and honestly, this is a pretty common mistake that I see kiddos do. So I like that you asked that. Students, young individuals, not quite adults, children. Grown men don't ever have to say they're a grown man. It's just common knowledge. But when you have to say you're a grown, when you have to tell people you're a grown man, you're not actually a grown man. It's not like I'm gonna walk into the room. It's not like I'm going to. I'm gonna pause this. Okay, so I'm gonna distribute. I'm gonna distribute.
First.
That's right. I'm gonna bring down that 2 first. Then what?
Then you're gonna bring down a 3e minus 9.
Good. Then what?
Then you minus minus e.
Good. So once I distribute on one side, I'm going to look and I'm going to go ahead and start simplifying my other side. What can I distribute on my right side of my equation?
5E.
Okay, so I'm going to have 5e, then what?
So it's going to be 10, negative 10.
Good, Alex. And then I bring down,
Plus 15.
okay, now I go back to my left side. After I distribute, my next step is to combine like terms. So I know my like terms are 2 and minus 9 and positive 3 and minus e. What should I do with that e that's by itself? Put a 1 up in front of it. Okay, so I'm going to combine my like terms. I always start with my variables first. So what's 3e minus 1e? 2e. And then I'm going to combine 2 minus 9.
Wanna be 7?
What kind of 7?
8?
Yep. So then I go to my right side. And I combine my like terms on my right side. What are my like terms on my right side? Negative 10 plus 15. So I'm going to bring down my number with the variable first. And if you would not do that, like let's say you would do negative 10 plus 15 first and then your number with the variable, I wouldn't mark it wrong. It's just how I like to set my problem up. But if you don't combine like terms, I will mark a point off. So what's negative 10 plus 15? Positive. Positive 5. Okay, now this is where my new step comes into play. After I distribute, after I combine like terms, my next step that I need to do according to my notes is to do what?
Pick on the little guy.
Pick on the little guy because that means I'm getting to the variables on the same side of the equation.
2.
It's 2e. How do I get rid of that 2e from the left side?
Negative 2.
So whatever I do on one side,
You on that side.
that's right. Cancels. So I bring down minus 7. 5e minus 2e.
Positive.
5 minus 2?
I don't know.
What's 5 minus 2?
It would be 3.
3 what? E. And then bring down my plus 5. And final step.
So,
Do that by
Taking away from the
negative 7 minus 5. You owe me $7. Now you owe me 5 more. How much do you owe me?
Negative 12.
Negative 12 equals.
3.
And get the e by itself by.
Divided by 2. 3. Yeah, 3.
Okay.
I was there.
So then negative 12 divided by 3 is. Say it again. I thought somebody said it.
2 because that's what
It's 4. But I'm not done.
What you mean right now?
Well, negative 12 divided by
Same
3.
dumb.
Oh.
Negative 12 divided by 3.
Negative.
Negative 4. Now I'm done.
But